My name is Malcolm Shabazz Hoover. I'm here to moderate this beautiful panel of wonderful professionals in the DEI and infrastructure space. We're going to start at I'm a little dyslexic, far right, not a joke, that direction. And then I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and spend maybe up to 3 minutes talking about your work, what you do, how you impact the space, and then I have a couple questions. We only have about 40 minutes, so I want to have a upbeat, fun conversation. Also, we're going to have fun, so don't be stressed out, just have fun.
All right, I guess I'll go ahead and start. Thank you so much, Malcolm. I hope that you all will be ready to listen and open up your hearts and understanding as we do end the day with equity. I hope that we begin the day with equity, and I hope we end the day with equity. And I hope that's just throughout the day that exists with you. But thank you to InfoDay Pacific Northwest for hosting this gathering of thought leaders. My name is Jennifer Chow, and I am the director of the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods. It is an honor to be here in this space. I'm really honored to be a part of this conversation about equity and inclusion in the infrastructure space here in the Pacific Northwest. As director of Seattle's Department of Neighborhoods, I lead a department that is dedicated to supporting equitable, inclusive growth and community-driven development across the city. Our work centers community voices, especially those who are often left out of the decision-making process. We approach infrastructure from a people-first perspective, where our mission goes beyond physical structures. We create spaces that serve the people of Seattle, allows everyone to thrive. From affordable housing initiatives to green spaces and transit access, our goal is to support infrastructure that supports the livelihood of all communities. Seattle's vision for infrastructure is more than just connecting places. It is about connecting people, resources, and opportunities. This means centering equity in infrastructure projects and recognizing that these projects impact all communities, whether it's new transportation, housing, or green spaces. By prioritizing projects that serve the community's well-being, we are fostering a city that works for everyone. I'll leave with equity in infrastructure means providing access to resources, ensuring everyone is included, and making sure our communities have input in how their neighborhoods evolve. For the Department of Neighborhoods, it is a priority that infrastructure development includes the voices and needs of the people it serves. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Wonderful. So I'll go next. My name is Harrison Price. I am the program manager for transit-oriented development engagement at Sound Transit. So to give a high-level overview of the work that I do and that we do in TOD. So we heard from Kurt earlier about what Sound Transit does. We are the regional transit provider for Puget Sound, and in the middle of building out the largest in the country transit expansion program. So that is very much our core calling, our core mission. But what we in TOD do is ask, what more can we do? What other challenges and problems can we solve? So the driver of the program comes through our surplus land, which any time that we build transit, there's often more land needed to construct stations than we need to operate stations. And so we then ask the question, what do we do with that surplus property? That's where TOD comes in. So we, in the TOD program, try to provide solutions to combat the overlapping issues of housing, transit, and access to opportunity. We do that through discounting that surplus property for the purpose of building affordable housing. So through a competitive process, we partner with affordable housing developers to bring housing that's accessible and affordable for, we're talking about firefighters, we're talking about teachers, folks that really benefit from living near transit in high opportunity areas, but maybe wouldn't be able to afford to live there based on what the market would build. To briefly touch on my role specifically in engagement, the key thing about making these projects a success and allowing them to thrive is being sure that they're serving the community and really in line with how the community sees its own future. So we do a lot of work on the front end to connect with communities, have conversations with folks that aren't typically invited to the table, to understand what are their needs, what are their hopes, what are their visions for the station area, and by extension, this TOD that we're bringing. So I'll talk more about that as we get into the discussion and questions and hand it off.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. My name is Derica Escamilla. I'm a newly appointed city council position member, councilwoman for the city of Linwood. I had the opportunity and got to throw my name in the hat this year, and I just started serving the city of Linwood this summer. I was thrown into it and competed through a process of 24 applicants and then went through the rigorous interview process of live Zoom interviews and was fortunate and blessed enough to be appointed to our council. I've served on 3 boards and commissions starting 13 years ago, starting with the Economic Development Board, then the South Linwood Design Committee, and the beginning stages of the Comprehensive Plan Update. I've been a coach in my community for over 13 years at the Boys and Girls Club and AAU, and have subbed for the high school during their off season due to WIA rules. As my career, I am fortunate and also blessed enough to have been in the AEC industry for going on 20 years. I'm an environmental consultant by technical background and was a seller doer for 15 years before transitioning into business development. I feel with my passions and my community involvement, I have a lot to contribute to the city, and I was a principal in charge and minority shareholder of a small minority-owned business where my whole world was set aside work and getting on teams. Not only that, being in a male-dominated industry, this is something near and dear to my heart. And so that's a little bit of what I do and can provide on a higher level what the city is doing. The city of Linwood is in its infancy on the DEI work. We're not as ahead of King County, but Snohomish County, we're coming. And I think, we're only 3 years into actually having a DEI position in the city of Linwood. So we're getting there, we're doing the things, and we'll talk about it more later, but we're not as sophisticated as the others, but we're getting there. There's a lot of work to be done.
What's good people? Happy afternoon. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for hanging around with us. There's not a lot of us in this space, but I just wanted to express a little gratitude. My name is John Miller. My pronouns are we, he, him. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, right? And that's first and foremost. I also carry this title called Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Manager for Seattle King County Public Health. You might ask, public health and infrastructure, how does that even tie? What is the relationship? Well, let me tell you, right? Because most times we just kind of think about it as this jam where it's about healthcare and medical services and all the wonderfulness. The reality is public health intersects with all of our systems, IT, construction, whatever, you name it, healthcare is there. Because when we think about the determinants of health and the people that we are out here supposed to be serving, right, those various systems that they are interacting with on a daily basis has an impact upon their health, right? Whether they have access to it or not in their interactions with that thing. So my job is to be able to work with the people in our organization to make sure their well-being is solid enough to be able to serve the people and interact with our systems to ensure that we have healthy outcomes. Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks, John. And I want to tell you, I really appreciate that you use the pronoun we. That's lovely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erica Mascorro. My pronouns are she, her, ella. And I am the City of Kirkland's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Manager. And basically, the City of Kirkland started off by working with a consultant to build up a draft DEIB roadmap. And in that roadmap, it called to hire my position. And so, like the City of Linwood, we are starting the work. I'm 2 years into the job, and I am the first to hold the title, so I feel very proud, but also a lot of pressure.
You do it.
I can do it.
You got it.
Our roadmap has 68 objectives. The objectives all have an actionable item connected to that objective. And within the past 2 years, I've completed not all the objectives, but I've completed 42 of the action items of those objectives.
Right.
And the work spans across the entire organization, internally and externally with the community. So there's a lot of ties, like John was talking about, the way things all kind of dovetail to each other. The work that we do internally is so that we can become stronger as a team and be able to support one another internally, but also it's going to reflect out in the way that we serve the community. And then working with the community to bring us together in making all those connections to doing the work. And I'll stop there.
Oh, that's great. I'm so impressed by all of you and grateful that I get to facilitate this discussion. So let's get into it. One of the first questions that I have is, how does your organization define equity? I work in the city of Portland for vibrant communities. I support primarily Parks and Recreation in their community engagement efforts. And we have an equity tool. It's like basically a matrix, and you go look at demographics and income and proximity to a park. And all of those, we have like, I want to say there's 11 different indexes that we measure to see. And then there's some additional criteria that we measure to decide what the equity score is for a particular neighborhood or demographic or whatever. Please share with us how you use your equity tool. And then if we have, I'm looking at the clock, I'd like to ask a couple more questions, but I just want to make sure that we have a good, and then also if you could talk about like, how do you define equity? Like what's the base measurement, right? For some of us, it's household income, as opposed to standard cost of living for your area, household size. Like, what are we measuring against? So, yeah, whoever wants to take that first. Yes.
I can go first.
Okay. I see you looking at each other. If somebody doesn't jump on the next person.
So we have an equity definition, a technical one that's on our roadmap. But to me personally, building equity is creating that shift in money and power. And so when we're talking about creating those shifts with our teams across an entire city organization, we're talking about sitting down with each of those directors and then their staffs to see how they all can contribute to create those shifts. As far as equity tools, so there's several, and some are complete and some I'm working on. But one that I got on board as soon as I started the job, because 2 years ago was the beginning of the budget year. And so I created a tool for all staff that was going to be writing the service packet requests. And the tool basically is a questionnaire that's divided into different categories, those categories being Title VI in connection to communications, outreach, engagement, and then another category, procurement, and then procuring actual physical items. And so anyhow, those are just some of the categories. Within each category, we have questions that we ask staff not to necessarily answer on the service request packet, but to think through in order for them to be able to build their budget request adequately in order for them to provide a full service of what their project or program needs. And so if it's, for example, engagement, you obviously need to know your program area, who lives there, what are the languages spoken. And based on that information and knowledge, going down the questionnaire, you're able to ask for the appropriate amount in order for you to fund a program that's going to be equitable, and it's going to bring in the voices of those that are not typically heard. I'll stop there to give my...
And I can share, thank you so much. I can share briefly and then hand it over to the rest so that there's space for everyone. So at the Department of Neighborhoods, we define equity by meeting people where they are and giving them what they need to thrive. Our focus is creating public engagement that connects residents and decision makers, making government accessible and approachable. So we measure success, Malcolm, as you asked, by relationships and how well we're bridging communities with city departments, ensuring that residents feel heard and city partners are connected with neighborhoods. We are bridge, not gatekeepers, we are gate openers, right? We are bridgers and we are connectors. We are conveners. That is the reason why the Department of Neighborhoods was created in 1991. Additionally, equity means prioritizing historically underrepresented communities and ensuring that they have equal access to resources, giving what they need to have access to resources, infrastructure, and opportunities. Because when people feel connected to their government and they see their input reflected in decisions, and when departments across the city have built resilient relationships with communities, we know we're making progress.
That's right.
I actually don't really have an answer to this question because we're 3 years in, and I sat and interviewed our DEI employee, and what he told me is that they have 4 areas of focus in Linwood right now, and that's they wanted to really start from the inside, right? Because how can you tell people that you're doing DEI work, right? You need to start, it's like cleaning your house before you invite someone over, right? So they started on the inside to then work outside. So they did DEI education training for internal staff, inclusive engagement, and workforce equity and policy review. And that's what they really focused at first. From then on, and a study had already been done on the diversity of our staff and all of those things and initiatives in that. So we don't have a tool yet. What we did was immediately when the position was created, a survey, a needs assessment was done. And then based on those needs, they're prioritizing the external, but they're starting from the inside and then working their way out based on the 4 pillars, starting and with their needs assessment and going from there.
Just before John goes out, or Harrison, I just want to say that a lot of us in our municipalities and organizations are at the beginning of, deprogramming ourselves or reprogramming ourselves. And so you should applaud your municipality for even beginning the work, this is and it's a long voyage. We, people who are in municipalities and corporate environments, I think we think in terms of 3 and 5 year plans, but we're in America and this is like a 405-year plan.
And not to say that things weren't done immediately externally. Like one of the first things that was done is our entire City of Linwood website. If you hover over on the right by language, it gives you over 40 languages. And you click on that and anywhere on the entire City of Linwood website or the SmartGov permitting, all of it, it will translate to whichever of those 40 languages that you pick on whatever page you click on. So that was something that was very important. And we don't need to wait. Let's get that done now. And so as they're doing the work, we're figuring it out and learning from our sophisticated, partner counties and towns and cities that, they're a little bit ahead of us.
Sophisticated. I don't know about that, y'all. Let me tell you this. So King County, well, first of all, we're trying to transform systems that have been in place for centuries, y'all. Centuries. And so we can't expect it to turn over in a decade. King County has been in the game since maybe 2008, right? So yeah, we are seasoned in it, and yet we still got a long way to go. I like to say we ain't doing shit, right? Just being blunt about it, right? We've got a lot of policies, a lot of good work that we're doing. We've got some good people holding it down, and yet there's still so much opportunity and space for growth and evolution, right? We hear data driven all the time. I heard it here today, right? But what's your data worth if you're not centered in your values? So I want to encourage each and every one of you, all of us in here, to shift our thinking, our modality to be values driven. So that means you got to define your values and be data supported, right? The one thing that I will say about equity, it's relational, it's about systems, it centers humanity, right? In addressing barriers to access, excuse me, I got to stop reading. I'm not that kind of cat in reading, but essentially we're working to address barriers for our communities, right? And how do we know that we're moving the needle? Our community and our workforce will tell you the outcomes, their experiences, right? And so when you think about that, you can't get at that with quantitative data alone. You've got to take the time to invest in the qualitative data, right? Because that's where the meat is. Sit down, talk to your people, be with them, be in community with them. Don't make them come to you. You go to them, right? And I'll stop there.
That's great. Yeah, I think first, just to echo what everyone said so far, I mean, I think especially on the points of community engagement, one thing that we try to do a lot at Sound Transit is ask who has access to transit, who has easy access to transit, who has access to housing that is near transit. That really connects people to opportunities. And at the front end of all of this, I mean, we've all talked about engagement a fair amount so far, and I think there's 5 things that I wrote down in engagement that we really need to consider to be sure that we're not setting up new barriers to people experiencing benefits. The first 2 are who is impacted by and who benefits from our projects and programs. That should really define how we spend our limited resources to get at the community voices that are most impacted and would benefit most from these investments. And then the third 3 are really challenges that engagement has to overcome. And the challenge here is who's the most interested, positive and negative interest, who's got the most time to invest in your engagement programs, and then who has the know-how. And, oftentimes in the past, those 3 things, interest, time, and know-how, has led us to places where predominantly white and predominantly older populations are the ones that are driving a lot of the decisions that are impacting communities that are bearing the brunt of projects. And so being able to take a step back and peel back the layers of, who is impacted, who's benefited, and try to set aside who is going to come based on who's interested, has the time and know-how, is really key to baselining how we start projects.
It's brilliant. I'm actually taking notes. So we're all in the Pacific Northwest, right here, White Utopia. Right? Look, am I lying? Isn't that what they used to put in the brochures, and they try to get people to come here? Like, this is the White Utopia. In Oregon, we had sundown towns. Like, it was literally illegal to be black in certain places, and they run you out of town. And I would say my family has been in Oregon since 1932. Not me personally, because I'm not built like that, but and I'm not 92. But my great uncle John came up in 32 and established a home. They have property down in Klamath and then up in and around Portland. So we're very familiar with it. But so what my question to the panel is, as a region that is in, just because they don't have black folks here doesn't mean the place isn't diverse. I want to say that too. Diversity is not the presence of just dark people. Like, this one thing I love about the Pacific Northwest as a native Californian is the presence and the very strong cultural presence of the indigenous and native people. Like, I really deeply appreciate that, being here and not just seeing the mockery that America likes to put people's names and place names on streets, but actual cultural institutions. I grew up also in Pennsylvania, which is Lenape, Philadelphia territory, and never went to school with any of those people. Never even met any of them until I was 19. But their place names are everywhere. What does success for us as a region look like? What does it look like when we don't have to have offices of diversity, equity, and inclusion? What does it look like for us to make our jobs go away?
For me, regional success means that all residents, regardless of background or neighborhood, have equal access to infrastructure that enhances their quality of life. What that means is equity doesn't have to exist because we have become equal, and we are not at equal. People still need equity because they need us to meet them where they're at based on what they need, whether it's in language, whether it's disability, whether it's unhoused neighbors, so that they can have again, the same level of access that others already have. It also means broadening the table, not making it smaller, right? But pulling up chairs and broadening the table so everyone has a seat. It means sharing space. And that does sometimes mean you have to share. It doesn't mean exclusion. So I think that when our region, when again, all neighbors feel like they are connected to one another, that they all know an access point and know that how they can have access to government, regardless again of their background and their neighborhood, then I feel like we are making progress.
Appreciate that. For me, I would say success looks like there are no more homeless people on our streets, right? They all have their minimum needs met, housing, food, all of the wonderfulness. There are no longer barriers to high quality education. Our public schools are known for being just as educationally rigor and as our private institutions, right, that we're paying for. I also think about the accessibility, right, and ensuring that all of our processes, our programs, our services account for folks who are living with a disability and who do not speak English as their primary language, right? I also think about the climate crisis no longer being a crisis, right? I think about our environment being safe and secure and us not having to worry about what's going to come on the horizon. I also think about no more war, right? I think about peace. So it's a really solid question, and I appreciate that. And when I think about why I do this work for that very reason. It is to plant the seed for the hope that the generation that come behind us, if this world still exists for them, that they can have some semblance of a utopia.
I want to add to that because my answer is that, and it's a deep question. The work will never be done. But to me, I know we've actually moved the needle when our children can see a future again. Right now, we have drones of children that are lost, don't see a future, are depressed, or they don't want to have kids. When that pendulum swings and they can identify with anyone and any job and any color, I feel like then we have done something. And for me, it's all about the kids. I am on council for the kids.
Yeah, success for me, it takes first a pivot away from data. I think when we get too embedded in how many people are doing this, how many people are doing that, how many people have risen out of poverty because of these programs, there's gaps there. There's gaps in data. And I think trying to get to a story of success that really relies on stories. I think what drives me to continue doing this work is hearing directly from the folks that have benefited from the programs and projects that we all work on. Whether that's a family that was able to move closer to a light rail station to avoid a 3-hour commute, and is now able to spend more time with their kids and family. Whether it's somebody that was able to move out of homelessness because they found a housing option that gave them the support to deal with the myriad of issues that was keeping them in that system. I think really trying to bolster those stories and have more of those stories be what is representative of the kind of human experience throughout the region and the world is really key to success.
Thank you. I really appreciate all of your responses. They're great. And I think in our world of DEI, it is hard to measure success sometimes. And like you were saying, we try to have those performance measures count. How many objectives have I completed? And that's great. We need to do that. But I agree about that human component. And so I take those small wins and I like to talk about those because it does make a difference. To me, success is when our LGBTQIA plus community comes together to celebrate Pride on a crosswalk that perhaps the night before got tire marks from somebody that was trying to show hate and peeled out. And the community just doesn't let that get in the way. They show up and they ask the city, can we clean it up? What can we do? Can we fundraise? That's a success. We just hosted a week ago, regionally, there's an organization called Africans on the East Side, and they like to put together a fashion show. And to me, is a success when they ask the city of Kirkland if they can have their fashion show at one of our community centers again. In December, we're going to be hosting a potluck, a potluck for LGBTQI plus community members that cannot go home because they're not accepted. And so they put together this potluck so that at least they have that community event where they can come together, they listen to music, do crafts, and have their potluck dinner, and that's lovely. And there's so many others. Our Juneteenth events, this year we had a community member. We host an annual Juneteenth event at one of our parks, but this particular community member wanted to do a cookout because that's how her family used to celebrate. And so through the school district, she was able to get all of the Kirkland families' contact information that have at least one child that identifies as Black. And she invited them to come to this cookout. And so for the city to be able to sponsor an event like that is a big win. And so it's all those small opportunities. And you know, I'm talking about the positive ones, but there's some that don't feel as positive or good, but I still see them as wins. Getting invited to a community group that's predominantly white and them grilling me, I see it as a big win because it means that they're thinking about it. They're thinking about the impact of DEIB. And even though we have hard conversations, each one of those is success.
It's hard for you, it's hard for them. It's not ever hard for me to talk to them people. It might be hard for them.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, right. I can't imagine because the truth is the truth is the truth is the truth. Okay, last questions because about 5 minutes. So many things I want to talk to you about. Okay. Can you just speak a little bit and tell me what your organizations are doing? You touched on a little bit to amplify, like we call them centered communities in Portland. So it's the LGBTQIS community, the youth, the elders, immigrants, the BIPOC community. I was a school teacher for a long time, so I'm always thinking about young people and trying to enlist young people in this experiment of American democracy. What are your agencies doing to like go out and reach out to these communities and amplify their voices? Yeah.
I feel like I'm always going first.
You want to make?
Okay, I can start. I have actually, I said the youth was my big initiative. So what I've been working on for the last couple of months is actually a youth advisory board for the city of Linwood. All of our municipalities around us and even some counties have a youth advisory board. And so I did a case study of like 9 municipalities of similar size and demographics. And I've been reaching out to their liaisons and seeing, lessons learned. I've been creating an entire database to create one for the city of Linwood. And what I found was not one of my 9 municipalities in my case study had adult stakeholders on their youth board. And so for one second, I was going to scrap that. But then I thought, just because nobody else hasn't done it doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. The adult stakeholders in the youth advisory board that I'm drafting up, and this is just to present it, and then there will be a task force, and then we can hopefully bring it to fruition by next year. But it's nonprofit groups like Girls on the Run, Girls in Transition, Project Access. These are like the Boys and Girls Club, Snow King, the police department, the school district administration. We are siloed running for the school board and the city, and I'm trying to break down these silos and bring in the stakeholders that care the most and can do the most for these kids. And so that's what I'm working on and we're doing, and it's been receptive, and it's going to be on the agenda here coming soon once we get past budget. But that is the needle that we're moving and we're working towards in the city of Linwood with regards to that. We have a disability commission for our aging. We just heard from some people yesterday. All of the DEI work is being actively worked on, and it just so happens that I'm the one trying to push forward the Youth Advisory Board in Linwood.
So for the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods, we have areas of service specifically for youth and immigrants. We partner also with other departments interdepartmentally. So the Department of Early Learning and Education, the Human Services Department, and also local CBO and grassroots organizations that are seated in community, because obviously they come from community and they know what's best. They're closest to their community they come from. So we make sure that they are included. We offer a platform to voice their needs and participate in infrastructure planning. This includes the Seattle Youth Commission, who represents the voices of young people across the city. We were dormant for 2 years because of COVID, and we hustled as we hired a civic engagement manager and now have 13 appointments, and they just started last week across the city. So in all districts, they were appointed by the mayor. They had to go through a process, but they are the first youth commission after 2 years with a 2-year term. That is very different. And that is because we wanted to invest and make sure that they had the time and space to actually be a part of decision-making. So this also includes our Community Liaisons program, which provides in-language outreach. These are contractors out in community that we contract with, that the city pays for, so that we do not just extract, but that we actually pay them for their time, and they facilitate community conversation. So these are young people. These are people in language. They come from people with disabilities, LGBTQ community. They tell us how in their community, how they would like to be served, how they would like to have conversations, so that we don't set it up. But they set the table and we are invited. So there's that. And then through targeted initiatives, we also provide resources and platforms for immigrant communities and youth to engage in the civic process. This includes language accessible meetings. We have youth engagement strategies, and we also have a People's Academy for Community Engagement, which is called the PACE program. It is a civic engagement program that has shifted from how do you engage with government from a decade ago to now we actually partner with underrepresented organizations, so mainly BIPOC and immigrant refugee communities that have not had access to government, and they create the curriculum and we resource them, which is very different. So it's community-led, and these are for workshops focused on city planning and development from their perspective. So that is a part of how at least the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods with the Seattle is doing.
Okay, quickly, Harrison and John.
Quickly, I think a big thing for Sound Transit is moving past this assumption that the communities that we're talking with aren't versed in the technical planning minutia of transit planning, of city planning. Folks are out here talking about safety. They're talking about access to opportunities, talking about access to housing. We should be going to them, tapping into those networks that exist and speaking the same language versus trying to bring in technical terms that people feel excluded by. And really, really understanding that people are having the conversations that we want to have with them. We just have to figure out how to bring them into it.
Great.
Pay the people, y'all. Pay the people for everything, and bringing them into not only the services or programs or policies that will impact them, but into how you conduct business, right, internally. So when you think about your HR-related things, they should be on your interview panels, and you should pay them for that time, especially for strategic positions. And then I want to tell you this. Let's not pretend like community's not already out there doing the work, right? So how do we as institutions lean in to supporting them and eliminating the barriers that they have to navigate?
That was great. Yeah. Do you want to close this out?
Okay.
Yes. If you'd like. Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously gonna have something to say, but go ahead.
I agree with John. Pay the people, feed them, right? Provide dinner if it's in the evening. Childcare, definitely. Just meet people where they're at. If you want people to attend an event and you're keep doing it the same way that you always do it, and you say, why don't they show up, and you think that an extra email is going to make a difference, it doesn't. It's about creating that feeling of you are included and you are welcome and you belong.
Right on. Thank you. Now we can clap. I just want to say that we had a very action-packed discussion. I hope you took notes. I took notes. Thank you for the people in the back who put more light at the front of the room. Thank you for Ken for having us. I don't even know how I ended up here, but I'm glad I got here. Thank you to all of you, my colleagues, for sticking around to listen. What's up, Parky? I see. And that's it. Yeah, go have a good day. Or let's go to the next thing, networking, dinner, whatever it is. Presentation. Okay, let's go. Yeah, thanks a lot. I had a good time. Yeah, man. Good. I'm glad you had a good time. Let's take a picture. Wait, don't go anywhere. Oh, yeah, let's take a picture. Take a picture.